Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's info session about the School of Information Studies Master's in Library Science degree, specifically the archives concentration within our MLIS program. Thank you for joining me. I know it's a weeknight and people are busy on weeknights, so I definitely appreciate your time and attention. So what I'll do first is I'll go ahead and introduce myself and also introduce Dr. Force, who is the other sort of main instructor in the archives program. So let's go ahead and bring up the old staff and faculty directory here. So, um, so this is Dr. Force, obviously. So as I mentioned, he is another of the other main instructor within the archives concentration. So he's an associate professor. He got his PhD from the University of British Columbia. So yeah, mostly interested in digital archival collections, archival science pedagogy, the history of record keeping practices, and legal issues associated with records management. And here are the courses that he typically teaches and some sample publications. I just talked a little bit about um, his sort of specialties and research areas. And then I'll talk a little bit about myself. So this is me, Sean Hayes. I'm the Archives Program Specialist here at the School of Information Studies. So I got my MLIS from the University of Pittsburgh in 2009. As it says here, I've been with SOAS since 2014. So this will be, gosh, what, year 9 for me? Wow. And before coming to SOAS, I was an assistant archivist at the University of Wyoming's American Heritage Center in Laramie, Wyoming, for 6 years. So 2 cats, a beautiful wife, actually 2 daughters now, so I should probably update this. And here are the courses that I teach. So my research topics are social justice in archives, community participation in archives. I'm interested in how archives influence identity construction, especially among people in underserved communities. So just a little bit about me. If you do end up pursuing or continue to pursue the archives MLIS, it's likely that you'll have either Dr. Forrest or I for at least a couple of courses. So just to help you get to know us a little bit. And here's my contact information, by the way, if you have any questions about anything you hear tonight after our chat is over. And I'll put this in the Zoom chat as well. So definitely feel free to follow up with anything that you may be wondering about. All right, so I'll go ahead and talk about the MLS overall for just a little bit, and then focus more specifically on the archives MLIS. And definitely feel free to save any questions towards the end. This isn't going to take a full hour, so there'll be definitely time for questions as we get to the end of the presentation. So, yeah, the MLIS. So as it says here, there are different concentrations for the MLIS, one of which is the archives concentration. Obviously, I'll focus on that in a little bit. To go over the curriculum, generally speaking, students need to complete 36 graduate credits. And so 30 of these must be in library and information science. There are 4 required courses here, so 501, 511, 571, and 799. So every MLIS student has to take these 4 courses. So obviously required courses. And then 799 serves as your culminating experience. So that's focused on your overall MLIS. And so I'll go ahead and shift gears a little bit and talk about the archives concentration. So if we go in here, archival studies, concentration. Oh, there's not a link here, huh? Okay. That's all right. Okay. Um, okay, here we go. All right. The archives concentration within MLIS. Sorry for they change this website all the time, so it's difficult to kind of keep track of all the different changes. So yes, so the MLIS and archival studies. So obviously this involves a specific focus within your MLIS on courses related to archives and record keeping. So I'm just endlessly fascinated by archives. I've been working or teaching about archives for probably the last maybe like 16 years of my life, between going to graduate school, working in Wyoming and working here. And, I have just enjoyed learning more and more about archives all the time. I think it's a really fascinating field that intersects a lot of really interesting issues. So issues like uh, equal access to information, technology, social justice, ethics, social memory and identity formation, as I touched on. And archives are really a mix of kind of the hard sciences and the humanities as well. So as I mentioned, technology is a huge part of archives, preserving digital records, providing access to records in a variety of formats, um, arranging and describing digital records. So there's definitely like the technological component of archives, and then there's the aspect of archives that, as I talked about before, is more focused on social justice and helping people use archives in a way that can better themselves, better their communities, help them develop a sense of identity, and essentially empower people. And so, kind of the stereotype about archives is it's just related to history, and people tend to think of, it's just preservation, but really there is just so much more to archives. And if you do end up pursuing your archives MLS, that's something that you'll learn more about as you progress through your degree. So yeah, having talked a little bit about archives in general, I'll go ahead and focus on the archives MLS a little bit more specifically. So if you choose to pursue the archival studies concentration, 15 of your 36 credit hours must come from courses qualifying as electives. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those courses are in just a little bit. So you have your 12 required courses that everyone takes, and then for your MLIS and archives, an additional 15 credit hours have to come from a selection of courses. And beyond that, you actually have a little bit of wiggle room as far as taking other courses within the MLIS program if you like, and you can actually take up to 6 credit hours of courses outside of the School of Information Studies. So if there is a history course that you wanted to take, or something else in a completely unrelated field, you have that freedom. So the degree is the MLS degree overall is meant to provide flexibility, but also structure at the same time. And that's true as well for the courses that you can choose for your archives concentration. So we do have one required course that every archives MLIS student has to take, and that is our Information Studies 650 course, which is our Introduction to Modern Archives Administration. I think a couple of you have either taken it or are taking it now. So hopefully you either enjoyed your experience or are enjoying it now. But essentially this course is a 15, or I guess 14-week overview of the archives profession and the different responsibilities that archivists have, and the different processes that archives carry out. So essentially we spend each week focusing on a different aspects of archives. So we spend one week talking about appraisal, we spend another week talking about preservation, another week talking about social justice archives, and so on. So it's really meant to provide a pretty broad overview of the archival profession and the different responsibilities and obligations that archivists have. And then the other courses within the archives concentration are more or less closer looks at some of the topics that we talk about in Information Studies 650. So for instance, I talked about how we discuss appraisal in Information Studies 650. One of the foundational courses that you can take is advanced appraisal. So just a semester-long focus on the different aspects of archival appraisal. You know, we have a whole course about preservation, a whole course just focused on archival outreach, and a whole course focused on arrangement and description in archives. So these 4 courses are our foundational courses. So in addition to being required to take Information Studies 650 for your archives concentration, you are required to take at least 2 of these courses. You can take more than 2 if you want, but you have to take at least 2 of them. And then beneath that, we have what we call our elective courses. And you can count a maximum of 6 credit hours within these courses towards your archives concentration. So these are courses that are still related to archives, but maybe not as closely or not as much as foundational information as these 4 foundational courses here. So we have a course focused on metadata, which is really important for digital preservation and online access. We have a course about information literacy instruction, which involves going into classrooms and having instructional sessions and teaching people how to use primary sources, which is a skill that a lot of archivists are expected to have these days. One course I'll talk more about later is our fieldwork course, in which students are able to receive academic credit for completing an internship at a archival institution throughout a semester. So for every 50 hours that you intern, you receive 1 credit hour towards your degree. So those are just a few of our elective courses. So as with the MLIS, the concentration is really meant to have a balance of requirements, but also flexibility. So as I mentioned, the only real required course is Information Studies 650. So you do have to take 2 of these, but you can choose which ones you want to take. And if you wanted to take all 4, you know, you could take all 4. If you wanted to take a few, if you want to take a couple of these elective courses, you know, you can choose which ones you want to take. Now, we don't offer every class online and on-site every semester, so availability might be an issue. You may not be able to take the exact class you want in the exact format that you want every single semester, so you may have to wait until a class is being offered online or on-site or however you would prefer to take it. But we do, Dr. Forst and I do have a plan for how often we offer classes and in which format to make sure that there is a good rotation and that before students graduate, they're able to take any class that they want in any format that they want. So if you wanted to take every class on site, you could do that. If you wanted to take every class online, you could do that. What's pretty common today is some students take some classes online and some classes on site. And that is another sort of added area of flexibility as well. So again, a nice balance between foundational knowledge and structure, but also giving students flexibility to pursue courses that they are interested in. Essentially, we wanted to make sure that students graduated with knowledge of sort of the most important aspects of archiving. And then beyond that, you can kind of choose your own adventure, more or less. So that's the archives concentration kind of in a nutshell. And then, we have the 3 plus 6 plus 6, and that is the 15 credit hours which you are required to take in archives. So What I would recommend you do is if you're interested in any of these courses, and you are thinking, well, A, do I want to go into archives in the first place? And B, what are these other courses about? What you can do is you can always find out who the instructor for these courses are and ask them for a syllabus. And that's a really useful way to get information. It's something that I recommend all the students that I kind of talk to about taking courses do. And that way you just kind of know more of what you're getting into. So for instance, if you haven't taken an archives course before, then it would be beneficial for you to look at the syllabus for Information Studies 650 and just kind of think, okay, does this seem interesting to me, or is this maybe outside of what I want to pursue for my MLIS? So just to get some sort of extra information about the different courses, and it's just a good way to kind of see behind the curtains a little bit and just know more about courses that you might potentially take in the future. Okay, so that is the MLIS overview. What I also want to talk about are some keys to success within the archives program and within the MLS, generally speaking. So I found over time that there are a few keys to success that can make students more competitive on the job market when they graduate. And these are things that SOAS and the archives program, Dr. Force and I essentially really try to support students being able to do, because ultimately what we want you to do is to graduate prepared to get a job. And again, that's why we have this foundational knowledge, because when you go and interview for a position, they're going to ask you about arrangement description, they're going to ask you about archival outreach. So one key to success is the courses that you choose to take. And you just have to be kind of aware of what's going on in the profession and matching the courses that you choose to take as much as possible. So for instance, as I kind of touched on before, a big issue within the profession is working with digital records, preserving them, making them available to the public. So, that being said, preserving information media, which focuses partly on digital preservation, is a good course to take to have that background and be able to take that background into an interview. Knowing about outreach is incredibly important. Knowing how to market archives, how archives can work to get the resources that it needs to be successful. Knowing how to arrange and describe records, is really important. So, having this sort of foundational knowledge, and then kind of looking beyond that and thinking, okay, well, metadata is related to digital preservation, so that might be a good course for me to take as well, or digital libraries. So just thinking strategically about what you want to do as a professional, and sort of addressing that through the courses that you take, and making sure that when you sit down and have an interview at an archive, you're able to kind of talk the talk and share your academic knowledge and expertise with your interviewers. So I mentioned Information Studies 759 before, and I'll talk about it again. That's a course that isn't recommended, isn't required, but is highly recommended, especially if you are coming into the program with no experience working in archives. If you graduate without any experience, either through an internship or volunteering, it's going to be more difficult for you to find a position. So we really encourage students to pursue fieldwork. I know it's not practical or possible for everyone, which is unfortunate, but if it is something that you can pursue, it usually works out to about 12 or 13 hours a week throughout a semester. Then that's something that we highly recommend. I also want to talk about the idea of experiential learning, and that's something that Dr. Force and I have really attempted to include in all of our courses. So this idea of within a course, you as a student gain, at least to a small degree, practical knowledge and practical experience that you can draw upon as an archivist and when you are interviewing. So for instance, in my archival outreach course, one of your assignments is to use a tool called story maps to make an exhibit, and show that you understand the sort of the concepts and requirements behind a good exhibit. When I teach preserving information media, I have students complete an exercise where they take a set of their records and they preserve them using some tools, and just kind of talk about how that connects with some of the standards in the profession. Even in my intro to archives course, I have an exercise where students take a set of records and appraise them and talk about, here are the records that I would put into this hypothetical archive, and here are records that I feel don't belong, and here's my rationale behind that. So, tied within these courses is experience that is going to help you be able to sit down with an interviewer and say, I've done this at least to a certain degree. So again, the courses that you take and being strategic about the courses that you take is the really valuable consideration when you're trying to set yourself up for success and trying to separate yourselves from other people that might be applying to the same jobs as you are. Another tool or another sort of key that I'll talk about is professional engagement. So there are a lot of archival organizations out there, professional archival organizations. There's the Society of American Archivists, which is the overarching archival organization here in the United States. Each region of the country has its own regional archives. So for example, here in the Midwest, we have the Midwest Archives Conference. There's the Society of Southwest Archivists, the New England Archivists Association. So each region has its own sort of regional archival organization as well. And then there are even local ones. So here in Milwaukee, we have the Southeast Wisconsin Archives Group, and each of these organizations has a lot of opportunities to get involved. So typically there are committees in these organizations. There are different sections and roundtables that are associated with different fields of study or areas of interest. And they're typically free to get involved with. And that's just a really great way to not only learn more about an aspect of archiving that you're interested in, but also network and get to know other people that are also in that same section and roundtable. And in the future, those people might be in a position to recommend you for a position, or the archives profession is fairly small, and so networking is really important. Sometimes it's as much as who you know as what kind of academic background you have or what experience you have. So not only is professional engagement and involvement a way to learn more about archives, but also to get to know other people, and maybe it'll be someone that can help you in the future. So that's the second sort of key or spoke of the wheel that I recommend students think about getting involved with. And the third and final key or spoke of the wheel that I also recommend students get involved with is professional development. And so here again is where fieldwork comes into the fray. So obviously, if you're working in an archive for a semester, that's going to enhance your archival knowledge, and you're going to get skills, ideally doing different things and things that are going to connect well with what you might be doing in the profession when you graduate. So that's a really great way to get some professional development under your belt. We also have a shorter program that is not for academic credit called Alternative Summer Break, in which students agree to volunteer for a couple of weeks in an archive over the summer. And again, that's not for academic credit, but it's just a good way to kind of dip your toes into some professional development. In the past, we've had students complete their alternative summer break at an archive and end up doing their field work there as well. So it's nice when that works out. But that's just another way to get maybe less professional development than for a whole field work, but just to kind of get your toes in the water a little bit and potentially stake out a future fieldwork site. Other ways to get professional development include going to conferences. So each regional conference will typically have at least one annual conference a year. The Society of American Archivists has an annual conference every year. They kind of bounce around the country or the Midwest. So for instance, this year, the Midwest Archives Conference is in Chicago. So if you're here in Milwaukee, just down the road, but it's been as far west as Omaha. So it just kind of varies from year to year where these regional conferences are. But if they're not too far away from you, then these are great things to pursue as well. Because uh, again, not only are you going to go and listen to sessions and learn a lot about archives and get professional development, but they're also great ways to meet people, right? Some of the most enjoyable parts of going to conferences are when you're sort of walking around between sessions and you run into people and maybe you're like talking about the session you just went to, and it can be a great way to network and get to know people, and again learn more about archives. Another good option for professional development are workshops. So these are typically 1 or 2 day workshops focused around a particular topic, and if you can go to those and again meet people that are interested in similar aspects of archiving as you are, learn more about aspects of archives that interest you, those are really great ways to pursue professional development as well. So we really like to support students who want to go to conferences and want to go to workshops. And we actually have scholarships each year for students that want to do that. So typically, we will give students who are not presenting at a conference $250 towards their travel and their lodging and all that. And then if a student is presenting at a conference, we typically award student $500. So it just kind of depends on what you're planning to do at a conference or at a workshop. But we do like to support students that way. So that's just kind of our recognition that professional development is important. It's helpful for you to do these kinds of things when you go to look for a job, and so we feel really good about spending some of our budget to go ahead and support students pursuing those activities. And one thing that I do as a part of my administrative duties within SOAS is I send out an email every 2 weeks, kind of detailing all the different workshops and conferences and other professional development opportunities that come across my desk, and scholarships as well. The Society of American Archivists offers scholarships each year. The Midwest Archives Conference does. I think all the regional archive conferences and groups offer scholarships to support students going to conferences too. So that's kind of another avenue for pursuing some of these professional development opportunities. And yeah, we want to support students and encourage students to do these kinds of activities. So I see it as a responsibility that I have to make students aware of those opportunities and possibilities as much as possible. So again, just the keys to success, the courses that you choose, the professional development opportunities that you pursue, and the professional engagement that you join and contribute to. These are the things that are going to help separate you from other people that are also applying for archives jobs and can really set you apart. Again, you kind of want to be strategic and have a goal. If you want to work in an archive that's focused on social justice or community archives, then you'll probably want to pursue workshops and other professional engagement and professional development avenues that will kind of support that goal. So yeah, you just kind of have to think strategically the same way that you do with your courses. And ideally, when you graduate, the skills and background knowledge that you have will match the position or types of positions that you're looking for fairly closely. And again, we try as much as we can to support you along the way by providing resources and information about these different opportunities. Okay, so that's really all I have about the archives concentration, the MLS as a whole, and some of the keys to success that I've seen students take advantage of or not take advantage of during my time at SOAS. So if there are any questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to answer those, or if anyone wants to turn on their microphone and ask questions that way, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat here as well, so that you can contact me that way if you'd like. So hayes29@uwm.edu.
Hi. A quick question. Maybe this is better suited for like a general info session, but I am not actually in the program yet, and I'm wondering how important like the different um like concentrations are.
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically, if you want to work in an archive, employers are going to look for the archives concentration on your transcript, just because archives tend to have pretty specialized knowledge that goes into working in them and being an archivist. Uh, I do know that we have students that graduate with the archives concentration on their MLIS, and they go into working at public libraries or at non-archives jobs. So having the archives MLIS won't preclude you from end up working in another type of information institution, but not having the concentration will, at least typically from what I've seen, prevent you from working as an archivist.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, if not, that's fine. If you think of anything that you would like to ask me, again, I have my email in the chat there, so you're more than welcome to reach out. If you'd like to see a syllabus for 650, which I teach, the intro course, please let me know. And if you have trouble getting a hold of any other syllabus, I can get that for you as well. So just let me know if I can help you with that. Again, I thank you for your time and your attention, and I hope you have a great week, and I hope I see you in an archives class in the future.